There you go.
I forgot he was on the box.
Box.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting of Wyomissing Zoning Hearing Board to order. We're here today to hear the application of Boiler House Island LLC, owner of property located at 15 Innovation Way and identified as tax parcel ID 96530717025316, where the 54-unit apartment building and associated improvements are proposed to be located, is requesting a variance to section 609.16 to allow parking areas to be located within 10 feet of a right-of-way line or lot line without a 10-foot landscape area. Property is located in C2 Retail Commercial District and the C3 Special Commercial District, and is in the RD2 redevelopment area mixed use incentive overlay district. The site is currently undeveloped. The applicant is proposing to construct a 54-unit apartment building with 56 surface parking spaces and 11 covered parking spaces, as well as associated stormwater and site improvements. Section 609.16 requires parking areas and access drives for non-residential uses to be located a minimum of 10 feet from the street right-of-way line or lot line, unless otherwise specified in this chapter, and for the area between the parking area access drive and the lot line or street right-of-way line to be landscaped. The applicant proposes parking up to 0 feet from the lot line where the property adjoins an existing parking. The applicant is requesting a variance from this section. Okay. Before we begin, for those of you who are strangers to us, you probably know Anderson and Michelle, but this is Najla Patish, who's a member of the Zoning Hearing Board. In the box is Bob Ullman. He's a member of the Zoning Hearing Board. Dan Becker is our counselor, and I'm David Rothmel. I'm the chairman of the Zoning Hearing Board. Mr. Becker.
So today, the burden of proof is on the applicant, so it's on the Boiler House Island LLC. We would present evidence today, and I believe you have counsel here, we'll ask her for her appearance in a moment, who will be able to present evidence both testimony and through exhibits. After you present testimony of each witness will have the each of the board members will have the opportunity to ask those witnesses questions. After all the questions have been asked and answered, we will look to see if there's any residents who have any questions or to present any evidence as well. After all the evidence has been presented, we will take a recess, go into executive session, and deliberate. Typically, we will render an oral decision today, which will be followed up with a written decision within 45 days. Do you have any questions, Ms. Frankowski, on how we proceed today?
I do not.
Okay. Would you like to enter your appearance, please?
Yes, Kelsey Frankowski on behalf of the applicant. Address is 4 Park Plaza, Suite 205, Wyomissing, PA 19610.
And how many witnesses will you have today?
Just one.
And who is that witness?
Mr. Greg Boja.
All right. What we'll do is we'd like to have him sworn down as well as Michelle and Anderson as well. Before we do the swearing in, however, I see there's another gentleman here. Is he with you?
Yes?
Yes, he's on behalf of the applicant, but just observing, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. All right. At this point, if we can just swear in the witnesses.
State your full name.
Greg
Craig.
Boja, G-R-E-G-G, last name Boja, B-O-G-I-A.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
I do.
Okay. Kelsey, it's up to you.
Okay, I think most of everyone here knows who Mr. Boja is, so I would move to admit him as an expert witness in the field of professional engineering. Unless you want me to go through his credentials for the record.
Do you have a copy of the CV form?
I do not have a copy of his CV. Do you have?
I didn't bring one, but I've been doing engineering since 1989, and I've probably done into the thousands of hearings. My office is in Wyomissing Borough at 1340 Penn Ave. and I have offices in Exton and Lansdale.
And what, can you go through your educational
Sure.
background?
I'm a bachelor of civil engineer. I graduated University of Delaware. I have my professional engineering license in Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina. And I've been doing land development, traffic engineering for many years.
I think that's sufficient to accept him.
I'm
Many.
sorry.
I said many.
Many years, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's sufficient, we'll accept him as a
Expert.
expert. I get my words right today, expert witness.
Expert
In professional engineering. Mr. Boja, are you familiar with the applicant Boiler House Island LLC?
Yes,
And were you engaged by the applicants to prepare plans for a proposed development located at 15 Innovation Way in the Borough of Wyomissing?
yes,
And you're familiar where that property is located within the borough?
yes,
Alright, I'm gonna show you what will be applicant's exhibit 1, which is an aerial view of a parcel map that shows the property, and is the property depicted on that map, outlined in red, the property known as 15 Innovation Way.
yes,
And the exhibit shows the property is currently being vacant. To your knowledge, is the property currently vacant as depicted in applicant's exhibit 1?
yes,
And to your knowledge, the applicant owns that property?
yes,
Alright, and then, I'll show you what will be marked as applicant's exhibit 2. Do you recognize this document?
okay, yes,
Is this the current recorded deed evidencing that, the applicant owns the property?
yes, as noted up on the first page.
And this is the property that you drew up plans for the proposed development, correct?
Correct,
Alright, I'm gonna show you what we marked as applicant's exhibit 3. Do you recognize that exhibit?
yes.
And what is that exhibit?
That exhibit shows the 54 unit apartment. I'll just stand up.
And there's a
Does it work
laser
into the
pointer.
TV?
It works on that one.
Works on that one, gotcha.
Sorry, Anderson.
So this is the 54 unit apartment. It'll have the parking spaces here in the rear of the building. The acre size is 1.77 acres today, which is part of the application. And then the other part was here, where there's already an existing parking lot, that we really just made the continuation of the existing parking lot, which is why it's within the 10 feet of the ordinance and why we're here today.
Okay, so the section that you just outlined showing the parking lot is what you are requesting, what the applicant is requesting a variance from with respect to section 609.16 of the ordinance.
Correct, and that's located up in the northeast quadrant of this parcel.
And is that because the parking lot is literally on the lot line of this property, which adjoins a parking lot on a neighboring property?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no, go ahead.
So it makes common sense to make sure it's continuous. Nobody really likes, like how Broadcasting Square was developed and the parking really did not work. We like to have our parking lots function what people would anticipate when they would enter into a facility.
And are there unique physical circumstances with respect to the property that creates a hardship in complying with this section of the ordinance?
Sure, it's already been subdivided, so this is something that this owner purchased, so he didn't really create anything. You can see that to the south is the rail lines. There really can't be any additional property purchased there, and neither properties, they've recently been sold and really developed or redeveloped. So there wasn't really anything else to be purchased adjacent to clean that up.
And is the variance requested necessary to enable the reasonable use of this property?
Yes,
Will the variance alter the essential character of this particular neighborhood?
no, it's a nice neighborhood. It's already more of a commercial type use. I know the one bank building changed uses, and I guess it's now more of a personal kind of car warehouse is what I've been informed. Adjacent to that's a restaurant, and then it's more office type complex, and then hospital, training facility further to the east.
And
So-
do any of the adjacent properties have the same issue where their lot line and their parking area goes up against another adjacent property's
Right,
lot line?
Clearly, the adjacent property has the exact same thing where I would assume that they've been allowed through this zoning board to go ahead and create parking at that similar location.
Would you agree that the variance being requested would not impair the appropriate use or development of any of the adjacent properties?
No, I think it actually enhances it because it makes it consistent with the adjacent uses. And also, just in case somebody was looking at it, this is the main access way through here, which is really what was encouraged by the reviewing engineer and also PennDOT.
Do you agree that the variance that's being requested will not be detrimental to the public welfare in any way?
Correct, it's consistent with the area uses.
And would you agree that the variance requested is the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification of the zoning ordinance possible?
Yes,
And as part of this land development, the applicant's also going to be required to obtain conditional use approval from Borough Council, is that correct?
correct,
And that application has been submitted and will be in front of council in the coming weeks.
yes.
I have no further questions at this time.
Raja?
I don't. Hey, Bob, can you mute your phone?
Bob?
Robert,
Yes?
can you mute your phone? Sounds like you're cooking dinner.
Oh, no, there's we have a copier that is going off while I'm sitting here.
All right, thanks.
I thought he was cooking dinner too.
Now, even though I'm in Florida, it's still early for dinner here.
Now, I have a question that might not be relevant to the parking. The apartment buildings, are they geared for the medical students that,
We would imagine that there would be a need from the medical students in the area that would work, but generally, I believe that they're market rate apartments and that's how they would be marketed. I don't think they're gonna be restricted unless,
no, I didn't mean restricted, but would they be affordable to medical students, or would they be small in size, some of them at least, so that the medical student can rent it?
I believe most of them were 1 and 2 bedroom units
Yeah.
at this facility.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that Mr. Bojan knows what the business model is for these particular units and what the rates would be, but I don't think they'll be restricted to student housing.
No, I didn't expect that, but
Yeah,
they need student housing.
They do.
From what I gather, students are looking in Exeter and beyond 25,000 right now.
The primary parking for the apartments is then that area over there?
That is the location where there's a greater number of parking spaces. There will be parking spaces in the rear for some of the units.
Are they shown on the plan?
Here, they're shown right here, and whether they're right here or in
Wait, so I'm not sure you're moving that awfully quickly. Where
Okay.
are they shown on that
They're
plan?
they're shown on the plan, right through here is garages.
Oh, so those that are marked PG 1 through 11, they're garages?
Correct.
Okay, so you have 11 spaces at that location, is that correct?
Correct. It's approximately 11 spaces.
Well, wait, approximately, or is it 11?
I like to go with that because it's not a final design land development plan. So it's
you're
shown
asking for
11
relief.
spaces.
So you're asking for relief, so our relief is gonna be granted or denied based upon this plan. So
Okay.
approximate doesn't work. So is it going to be approximate, or is it going to be what you're presenting to us and asking for relief?
There'll be 11 spaces in the south side of the lot.
Okay. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Bozier. Where's the property line, just so I can clearly understand that, I'm kind of
Property
listening.
lines go through here.
So where is, all of the parking is on the lot that's owned by your client, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any portion of it that is not on the lot owned by your client?
There's none on his lot that was counted for with the parking count that's been provided to the borough. There are adjacent parcels that have parking that are north and east, as indicated on the plan, that are of the adjacent owners.
So all the parking that you're identifying, the 50, what was it, 53 spaces? 50, how many spaces? 56. I can go back.
56.
Yeah, it's 56 plus the 11. So 67 spaces.
I think they were counted in
Yeah,
our parking space.
56 outside apartment spaces and 11 private garage. So that would be, yeah,
67.
67, and I think 65 are required under the ordinance.
Okay, so all 67 spaces that you're identifying for us are located on the property that's owned by your client?
Correct.
It's a very weird shaped lot. I mean, it's an L, so,
Yeah, that's what was exactly what I was trying to figure out.
right.
Because I don't, again, the property lines are.
And if you look at the parcel, if Michelle, I don't know if it would help to pull up A1, but that sort of shows a little bit clearer where the lines exist. And the parking would be in the top right area.
And so while we're talking, what the relief that you're requesting, Ms. Frankowski, is what relief?
It is pursuant to 609.16 of the ordinance. We're requesting a variance from that section. It's not with respect to the number of spaces. It's with respect to the fact that the parking area directly abuts another lot line without landscaping being in between, 10 feet of landscaping or 10 feet being in between those lot lines. And that's gonna be right, those two lot lines, the top of the L and the east side of the L.
Okay, so at the top of the L, the north side, where you would otherwise need the landscaping, it's going to immediately abut or join another parking lot.
That's correct.
Correct.
And there's gonna be spaces that will just kind of join up to each other, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And they're gonna be same elevation, there's not gonna be any difference, you can drive from one to the other?
That's the intention.
Okay, are there curb stops or anything there to identify the differences?
No.
Is there any type of agreement between the property owners regarding shared spaces?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are these gonna be in any way identified as the spaces for this particular use?
I'm assuming that the applicant would wanna do that, and, I'm sure the board, if they wanted to make it a condition of relief, they could.
And the same thing then on the east side, I guess, of the parking area. I see that what appears to be shown is some trees. Are they trees?
Here?
Yes.
Yes, inside the island.
Okay, but they're not compliant with the requirements of the zoning ordinance, so you're asking relief from that section as well? Or are you not going to put them on?
I think those actually do comply. Are they 10 feet?
Yeah, they were 10-foot width for the islands.
So that will comply. It's just that northern
Okay,
side.
so it's just that northern section, and there's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 12 spaces in that area. And it's just that area, is that correct?
Correct, on the north side.
And the area along the east side that we just identified, the trees, is that a driveway or travel lane?
There's aisles.
On the opposite side of your property line, that's an
Okay.
aisle, a drive aisle?
This is a drive aisle through here
Got it.
that ends up going across the bridge to the parcel that's basically an island in between the Norfolk Southern rail lines. But again, you can see it's just an aisle for that, as the parking island here, so the traffic distribution is not gonna be direct at that location. You can see it's from there. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Question for Michelle. We had a variance on 10 Avenue for putting an apartment in a building over, it had to do with bell tower. And we had discussion during that the parking space, in order to qualify for this the apartment or something had to be within some distance of the entrance to the building?
If you're leasing off-street parking spaces from an adjacent property owner, so if the parking is not contained solely within your property, that adjacent property has to be within 300 feet of the use it's serving.
Yeah, that was my climb, I believe we were like 8 feet.
Yes.
We made it by like 8
Yes.
feet.
But
Okay.
because this is all contained on the same parcel, there is no specific distance, the parking has to be from the entry place to the building. I'm guessing that's something that will be questioned during land development, but we're not there yet.
So let me ask you this question also, Michelle. As far as conditional use, is that for the actual use itself? The apartments are used by condition?
The conditional use is, refresh my memory here.
It's dimensional issues with minimum lot size and the paved area not to exceed 10%.
So the use is permitted,
Got it.
yes.
Can we go back to A3 just for a second, please? So, Mr. Boscia, you can't put the 10-foot buffer on, at the north area of the parking lot that adjoins the off-site parking. What's the reason for that? Why can't you put that up there?
It would really be inconsistent with how you would design parking lots, because it's not consistent with the area of parking around it. And the building requires a certain number of spaces, and this is how it best meets that.
So, if you were, I mean, you could certainly put it there just like you do on the east side, correct? So as a practical matter, from an engineering standpoint, you could do that, correct?
I don't see that you would do the same thing, because you wouldn't have the parking spaces at that point, so then you would be,
Okay, so,
Just let me finish.
No, let me answer my questions, please.
I-
So the answer is yes, you could do that and put that up in that.
that was not the answer.
Okay, what was your answer?
My answer was, is if you would put the 10-foot island in, you would then have a 24-foot aisle that would be located there with only access to parking on one side, not both sides. We've already gonna have a significant amount of paved surface anyway for the 24-foot aisle, so it makes sense to have the parking spaces adjacent to the opposite spaces, just like is continuous. If you would pull up the aerial,
So you're telling me
You
that
see
you
that
could not put it
in
there, that
A1.
location?
I don't think it makes sense.
I understand that, but can you do it?
Physically,
Yes. There's no prohibition based upon the lot size or the topography or anything like that.
I know the site's been challenged with having 16 foot of topsoil placed on the site that makes the grading more difficult in order to keep other ordinance requirements consistent with parking lot and grades.
So there will be a grade change, inconsistent with what you said a moment ago. There will be a grade change at that joining lot line?
There'll be a grade change, I know where the apartment building is located, because that's where the topsoil and everything that's there is greater than existing. So there are locations where we have to make sure we grade it so that it is consistent, which is what I testified earlier, is that the parking would be consistent with how the grades would be joined.
Okay, will there be a grade change at the parking lot? Where the parking lot is
There will
joined?
be some to effectuate the parking lot itself, sure.
So vehicles will not be able to drive from one side of the parking area to the other?
That's not what I said.
Okay,
I stated that the proposed work would be consistent, that cars would traverse.
okay, so that means you could then also put an island there very easily too? Correct?
I'm assuming that you could reconfigure the site in some way to create that. However, it's not the ideal way to lay out a parking lot. It's not.
And what's driving the need for that? The number of spaces?
We certainly need to have the appropriate number of spaces to meet the ordinance, and I believe it makes the most sense to have the spaces meet the ordinance. with the property, because again, we're making it consistent to what this board has already approved, for the adjacent landowner.
And this is a vacant lot,
Yes,
so if you reduce the size of the apartment building, you could reduce the number of units,
theoretically so,
and you could reduce the number of spaces,
theoretically so.
and you could comply with the ordinance.
Perhaps.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
Just one clarification on your question. You're talking about the northern border,
Yeah, that's the only place where they're looking where they need to have the separation,
right there?
right there.
Okay. And you were saying if you put the island there, it separates it,
They
and
comply with the ordinance and those zoning rules.
I'm sorry.
So if they put the island at that location, then those zoning relief would be required. No zoning relief will be required. Okay. Naja?
I just wanna follow up to be clear. If you were required, if you did put that 10-foot island on that northern border, would, in your opinion, this plan meet the zoning ordinance for the required number of off-street parking spaces? If you can answer that, I don't know that you can.
Currently, the plan shows 65 spaces being required, and we had 67. There is approximately 10 spaces that's in the area of discussion. So it would bring it below the threshold.
And you're not aware of whether the applicant would be, whether it would be economically feasible for the applicant to make the number of units in the apartment building less?
I don't know. I do know from an engineering perspective, I like to have things designed that are consistent with the surrounding area. Again, you know, all of us know Broadcasting Square when things weren't really designed well in that parking lot. And I like to have it consistent and look better. And I believe the design that we have here, that we've shown, achieves that.
I've got nothing further.
um, housekeeping.
Yes, so at this point in time, Michelle and Anderson are both sworn. We'll start with Anderson. Anderson, in capacity as the zoning officer for the borough, what are your duties and responsibilities?
My duties and responsibilities, for this hearing, I prepared the zoning hearing board memo dated October 20th, 2023.
Is that the memo that was read into the record a few months ago?
Yes, it was.
Did you copy that with you today?
I do.
All right, we'll mark that as board exhibit number 1. Mr. Kowski, have you seen that?
I have no objection.
Do you have any further information for us as a zoning officer for the borough?
No.
Thank you very much. Michelle, in your capacity as the secretary for the zoning hearing board, what are your duties and responsibilities?
I prepared a public notice that was advertised in the Reading Eagle on October 24th and November 1st. That same notice was posted on the subject property. Hold on, I think I grabbed the conditional use hearing. I
have
have,
it here, Michelle.
I grabbed the conditional use hearing file instead of the, instead of the zoning hearing board one.
Here you go, Michelle.
Here, it was posted on the subject property on October 20th of 2023 at approximately 1:40 p.m. That same notice was mailed to all adjacent property owners located within at least 300 feet on October 20th, 23rd at approximately 9:30 a.m.
And you have a copy of those that you can provide to the stenographer?
I do, yeah, she already has them electronically.
Okay, we'll mark those as board exhibit number 2. Do you have any further information that you'd like to present to the zoning hearing board relating to this application?
Yes, an email from Kelsey dated October 17th at 1:58 PM. That was giving me permission to amend the application to only request relief from section 609.16 off-street parking. Additionally, other relief had been requested that it was determined was not applicable to the board.
All right. Also, we'll mark, we have a copy of the application.
Yes.
We'll mark that also as, so we'll mark I'm sorry, I apologize. We'll mark the email from Ms. Frankowski dated October 17th as board exhibit number 3.
Yes.
And we'll mark the application as board exhibit number 4. I believe that's already been evidenced. And Michelle, for board exhibit number 5, the zoning ordinance. What zoning ordinance was in effect at the time of this application?
The one that was printed January 2022.
Okay, so we'll move that into evidence, but we're not going to put a hard copy of that into evidence. Ms. Frankowski, do you have any objections to any of those exhibits?
I have no
All
objections.
right, thank you very much. And you move for your exhibits?
I was just gonna say, I'll move for the admission of exhibits, applicants exhibits 1 through 3.
Okay, anything further, Kelsey?
No.
Okay, and on that basis, we will recess into executive session, see if we can come to a decision today. And if you all will excuse us. And order, Robert, you have a motion.
Yes, I move that the request of Boiler House Island for a variance from section 609.16 to allow parking areas to be located within 10 feet of a right-of-way line or lot line without a 10-foot landscape area be granted, subject to the terms and conditions to be placed on the record by our solicitor.
Is there a second?
I second.
And those conditions will be as follows. The applicant is bound by all testimony and exhibits that have been presented today. Applicant will comply with all the requirements of the zoning ordinance and for all other borough ordinance codes, rules, and regulations. The applicant will use and develop the property in accordance with all federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulations. The applicant shall obtain and pay for all permits that are necessary for the construction and work to be done on the site. The next one will be the applicant may not alter or otherwise use the property in a manner that's inconsistent with the decision or the exhibits which have been presented today. Next one is the applicant shall comply with the ordinance, the relief that's been granted within 1 year of the date of the written decision. The next one is any failure to comply could result in immediate revocation of the zoning relief that's granted. And this decision would be binding on all heirs, successors, and assigns.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried, relief is granted. Meeting is adjourned.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.